back, everybody. The Agent and the Fan podcast. I'm Chris Liable. I'm the agent. That's Luke Columna, my buddy. He's the fan. What's going on, everybody? It's been a minute.
It's been a while,
but we're back in action here. We don't have any guests today, but we do have a lot to talk about because we got a lot of catching up to do. We had the Super Bowl. We got a lot of football to talk about. Usually we're more baseball. We're going to talk a lot about football today. And then I want to get into, obviously, spring training starting, college baseball starting. I want to get into that a little bit. I want to talk about Tim McCarver, passing of a legend, who was an old friend of mine. And I want to say some stuff about Tim, and really we got a lot to say. So let's dive right into it, Lou. Super Bowl, what a game.
What a game.
So exciting, so fun. I think a lot of people, I know a lot of Eagle fans, because being up here in the Northeast and in Jersey, there's a lot of transplanted Philadelphia people or South Jersey people. Don't know too many Chief fans, but for me, it's obviously the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl. Very, very exciting. The game was fantastic. Certainly lived up to the billing. What do you got?
No, I think it was I think it was a great game. I think it could have been an all-time great game had that not have been had we had that call at the end. Now, again, it happens. I mean, he did hold him. I understand that. But, with that said, it was a great game. I just felt if it would have played out, I think it could have been an all-time great game. But with that being said, everything was great. I mean, both quarterbacks showed up, which is not always the case, right?
Yeah.
Both quarterbacks showed up. Both quarterbacks played great. The Philly defense didn't show up, but other than that, it was a great game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs have a great thing going. Obviously, Mahomes is spectacular. Now, one thing I do want to, I guess I should just make sure it's aware. So I had Pat Mahomes on. I was working still with the Mets. I had Pat Mahomes Sr. on the team, and that was in 1999. Going the Wayback Machine, and Pat's a great guy, and Pat was a great pitcher on that team that year when I was working in the front office. We had a lot of fun back then, and with Pat, and we had Ricky on that team and stuff, and we got some good stories to tell about that. Eventually we'll get to those, but maybe not in this episode. But little did I know at the time, we had a little kid running around the outfield grass. Who would have known that it would be, Patrick Mahomes would the little boy running around the outfield grass at Shea Stadium, where I was working back then, that he would be not only, one of the best players in the game today, looking like he's on the trajectory of maybe being an all-time great. And, win another Super Bowl, and he's still young guy, just, a beloved guy. I think he's a guy that, we both have young kids. The kids
look up to him.
They look up to him, but also they just love him. He just, what's not to love? He's just a great guy. He's a great kid. He's a great player. He's exciting to watch. He's fun to watch.
You know what about him that I like is that he's relatable in a weird way, right? We have all these young quarterbacks out there, and I'll even put, the Cincy guy in there as well. But, Patrick Mahomes, it just seems he's relatable. He seems approachable, which is not the case with a lot of, the quarterbacks, right? Because, the Tom Brady's of the world and the Aaron Rodgers of the world, they're obviously, phasing out, and we have this new generation of young quarterbacks. But this one in particular is just doing a great job.
Yeah, no, he's a blast to watch, and I think so many people were rooting for the Chiefs because of him, because he's fun to watch. I think he's got a lot of appeal. Kids love him.
He's like Steph Curry in that way.
Yeah, I mean, even more so, I think, just because he's, I don't know, there's just something about him that he's, women like him, men like him, kids like him. So he's a very appealing person, and he's fun to watch. Now, when we are on the field with our teams, and I coach football, baseball, basketball, he might not be doing many favors for our teaching our kids, because I see our kids making throws like in the
Yeah, yeah,
hole like
yeah.
this,
The
and
sidearm, the
you know,
sidearm.
side arming the ball or backhanding it when they're running on scrambling and stuff like that. And I always yell at my kids, "You're not Pat Mahomes. You
Yeah.
know, let's not. You're not Patrick Mahomes. Let's do things." But yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to watch him. Jalen Hurts, what a game he had. He was
Wow.
spectacular. And just I think where he's come from, and for a guy who got benched at Alabama
Hmm.
to transferring to Oklahoma to becoming this star player in the NFL and emerging right before our eyes is you can't say enough about him and what a great ball player he is. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch him continue to perform as the years come along. And so it's just a lot not a lot to love. The play itself, the holding, I saw a big debate on inside the NFL where Ray Lewis and Michael Irvin were arguing about it. Now that's a very that argument's near and dear to my heart. Those are two of my top Hurricanes, and as you know, I named my son after them both. So, and they were arguing about it. Michael took the receiver side and said that, holding's holding. It doesn't matter when it happens. If it happens and it affects the play, you got to call it. And Ray Lewis said, you can call holding on every play and you can't call it in that situation.
Yeah.
But Michael Irvin said, yeah, if it's on the backside, okay. But that directly affected the play. He held him and that he was open. He was going to be open for a touchdown. So
Yeah.
I'm going to side with Michael Irvin. I very rarely go against Ray Lewis, but I'm just saying.
No, I think listen, that debate has gone on already for a while. I'm of the mindset of like, man, like you let see, the thing is, if you let these things go during the game and then you call that at the end of the game, I think that's where people got a little bit more upset, as opposed to if you were calling that if you were calling a really strong game or strict game from the beginning, then okay. But like you let him play, and then at the end, that's where I think
I don't know. The guy was going into the flat. It was no one there.
Yeah.
And he threw it there and he was pulling his shirt. I mean, so anyway.
Well, Philly fans can cry. That's all right.
Yeah. But unbelievable game. So fun to watch. I really enjoyed the game, but and I think, I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add on the game itself.
No. Listen, I think the game spoke for itself. Again, one of the greatest games that we've seen on the Super Bowl. Could have been an all-time great, like I said.
I don't think it could have been. I think it was, and to me, it was a great game. And I don't think that.
Let's talk about that for a second, though. You don't think if that game is tied with Jalen Hurts marching down the field with a minute to go,
it still was a great game?
No, it was a great game. I'm saying it could have been an all-time great game.
I still think it was an all-time great game. It was in a Super Bowl and it was exciting and it went down to the end.
Yeah,
I think when we were kids, there was never a good Super Bowl. Lately they've been pretty good. So a lot of them have been pretty good. So to have the games go down to the wire, and especially in this game, because there wasn't a real clear-cut favorite. I think a lot of people didn't have. I know I didn't have a strong read on the game. I thought it was going to be a close game, but I didn't really. I wasn't. A couple years ago, I know, like I told everybody I thought the Bucs were gonna beat the Chiefs, and they did. I felt pretty strongly about that. So
I thought, I had no dog in this fight, but I thought that Philly would win.
But a lot of people thought that, but I kind of like the Chiefs, and like I said, great job by the coaches, great game, and I thought the NFL did a pretty good job putting on a nice show. I want to get to the next point though, where I didn't think they put on a great show. The NFL honors. So I watched the NFL honors. I love the NFL honors. I enjoy the NFL honors.
They do the best job, by the way. They do a
great job, and it's a great show, and it's a great night for the league. And I like that they did it on Thursday, and they gave the little break, and they did it in advance, and they did it live. They didn't. In the past, they've announced things and then aired it after the fact, and I thought that was poorly done. But this one was really, really well done. But on the NFL honors, they announced the NFL Hall of Fame class for the coming summer. And I didn't have any dogs in the fight for the Super Bowl, but I did have dogs in the fight for this Hall of Fame class. And, Yes, I'm happy for the Jets guys that got in there, Joe Klecko
Yep.
and Darrelle Revis, obviously. Darrelle Revis, no-brainer.
No
Joe
brainer.
Klecko is a guy who had a great career, when we were little kids. You got to give, I mean, so I'm happy for him. But now I'm going to go on my soapbox. I had 3 guys, and when I say my Hurricanes had
Yeah.
3 guys that were nominees, and they were all very well deserving nominees, in my opinion.
Without
Okay,
question.
you had Andre Johnson, you had Reggie Wayne, and you had Devin Hester. Okay, I'm
How
gonna
they
just
don't get
go in
in, I have no
order.
idea.
I'm gonna just go in order. Andre Johnson is one of the greatest receivers in the history of the NFL. He played on some terrible, terrible teams in Houston. He was the shining light in an organization that struggled for a long, long time. This guy, what Andre Johnson did on and off the field in Houston, off the charts, no brainer in my mind. Didn't obviously he's a finalist, so he's got his, he's getting recognized, but should be a Hall of Famer. Reggie Wayne, I don't even want to get started on Reggie Wayne.
I
Reggie
don't get that.
Wayne, yes, he played on some good teams and obviously played with a great quarterback in Peyton Manning. They put in Marvin Harrison. Reggie Wayne's numbers are right there side by side with Marvin Harrison. Reggie Wayne needs to go into the Hall of Fame. It's a no-brainer. The man is deserving. What this guy did, just unbelievable player, needs to be recognized. And last, and certainly not least, Devin Hester. Devin Hester is the greatest player, hands down, no question, not even an argument, at what he did in the history of the NFL. The fact that he is not a first ballot Hall of Famer is a joke. Just like it was a joke that Ray Guy, the best punter in the history of the NFL, didn't get in and took a long, long time to get in. Devin Hester, it's a no-brainer what this man did, what he did, and those years that he put up, and his punt returning specifically. Whenever you hear from an NFL coach, the first thing they're going to say to you is, we got to win in all 3 phases of the game. There's offense, there's defense, and there's special teams. Devin Hester is the best at what he did. He was a game changer. You cannot continue to ignore special teams in the NFL. I just saw Matthew Slater just signed on back for the Patriots for his 16th year. He's he's late 30s. Matthew Slater, while he's never been a skilled player or anything else besides a great special team player, the man is a first ballot Hall of Famer and should be. Will he get it? I don't think he will. Will he eventually get in? I think he might. But the fact that this guy has done what he's done as a special team player, it has to be recognized. It's one of the 3. There's only 3 parts of the game.
Yeah.
Devin Hester needs to get in. Reggie Wayne needs to get in. Andre Johnson needs to get in.
Okay, what do you think? Is it a Miami bias? Because these 3 guys, to me, were no brainers. Like, there was no debate about these guys, and for them not to go in,
I don't know. I don't want. I would like to think not. And we've had some. Miami's had a lot of guys going in the last few years, and so we've been able to build a nice class with the Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. I mean, obviously,
those are
undeniables.
no
Undeniables. I'd like to see Vince Wilfork get some more recognition, and we certainly have some guys to look closer at, but. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe part of it, I think for Andre was that, he did play on some bad teams. I think with Reggie, he maybe was more of a second fiddle according to people, but you have to look at the numbers and you have to look at the
You have to look at the
statistics.
numbers.
The numbers don't lie. And also, to me, it's length and consistency of career. These guys were consistently great every year and for a long time, and even Devin Hester returned kicks as an older player was still, able to, change games and make you aware of him. Those are things you have to look at. And I'm a little disappointed in the job the committee did this year.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I was dumbfounded when I said, wait a minute, these guys aren't in? Like, when I saw, I'm like, no. I mean, I was happy for Klecko. I was happy. I was obviously happy for Darrell, but to not see, Devin Hester, Reggie Wayne, I was like, what? Like, what are they thinking? Like, which led me to think, like, is there a bias towards Miami? I mean, I don't know, because I mean,
I
what
hope
other
not, but we always
explanation
say
do
that in
you
football,
have?
in college they do, but I don't know how
Well,
it
yeah, I was gonna
translates to
say,
the
but
pros.
what other explanation is for you to
I don't
tell
know.
me that Reggie Wayne is not a Hall of Famer, that Devin Hester, Andre, that these guys are not Hall of Famers is beyond me. But
Yeah,
you know,
I am
we
very
have
disappointed.
next year. We have next year.
Well, wait till next year, and
Wait till next year.
I think next year's class is a little bit weaker, so
Yeah,
hopefully those guys will get a better look and get in. They all three deserve it. It'd be nice if all three got in together, at
yep.
least for personal reasons.
No,
Maybe
for
make a little
sure.
trip to Canton.
A nice little trip to Canton. Um, let's talk about Eric Bieniemy. What's your take on that?
So Eric Bieniemy, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to talk about Eric Bieniemy. So Eric Bieniemy just took the job, commander's job, assistant head
Yep.
coach and offensive coordinator. I think a lot of people he's been a topic of discussion for a long time now. That he's been the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs and hasn't gotten a head coaching job. People think he's deserving. I obviously Eric. First of all, I remember Eric very well as a player, a terrific player going back to University of Colorado,
Colorado, yep.
and was a great college player and had a nice career in the NFL as well. And Eric, certainly has earned, paid his dues as a coach.
Without question.
I think so. I think some people are like, why is he doing this, or what kind of move is this? I think it's a great, great move for a lot of reasons. But I think for Eric, I think he needed to get out of the shadow of Andy Reid. Andy Reid is a legend. Andy Reid is a play calling genius, and Andy Reid calls the plays there. And I
Mhm.
think at the end of the day, that's held Eric back while he's been comfortable and has a great role with the organization, obviously, and has been a big part of it. Andy Reid would be the first one to tell you that. I think you need to get away from that and carve more of his own path. I know he's gone on a lot of interviews. I don't know why, if
Do you do you think that part of the reason he hasn't gotten that job is because people view Andy Reid as
that's
the play caller?
I think it is. I think some people have tried to make a race issue out of it. I would hope that isn't the case, and I would like to think it isn't. I think it's more of the fact that people just think that Andy Reid's the one calling the plays. And I think for him to go to Washington with a good young team there and a good veteran coach in Ron
Ron
Rivera, and
Rivera.
Ron, who is a defensive guy, for him to go in there now and make this his own at this time with a good young nucleus and some good young players and some guys to build around, I think that's a great spot for him. And I think that'll, again, I don't know how long Ron's going to coach for,
Yeah.
but maybe he's an heir apparent, or maybe he's, this is what breaks him out of it with a good Washington offense
Yeah.
in 2023. So I think it's going to be great. I don't want people have made a big deal and made it a race issue. I
No.
don't know that that's the case.
No,
I
I
think
don't
it's
I
the
agree
Andy
with
Reid
you.
thing. I think Andy Reid,
I think it's an Andy Reid case.
yeah, I think Andy Reid his shadow is huge in more ways than one, and he's just the guy's a great offensive coach, and everybody knows at the end of the day, as much as he's tried to get Eric and given him, make sure he got his just desserts. It's been hard for people maybe aren't buying into it. I think this is him to break out on his own, and Ron Rivera is an awesome coach and a great guy and a perfect guy for him to slide in and work with and be the assistant head coach and be really the guy who's running the offense on a good young team. So I'm hoping that's the case.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, listen, if they have a very good year next year, this will just catapult him.
He's going to go right to the top of the list,
go
and I think he's going to get a job right away. I really do.
Yeah.
So I think,
because when I first saw it, I was like, that's a weird move. And then I thought about it more and more.
it's Andy Reid. I just think
Andy
Andy
Reid,
Reid is just Andy Reid, and everybody knows Andy Reid's calling the plays at the end of the day in
Yeah.
Kansas City. And Eric's done what's been asked of him, and not to say that he wouldn't have done a great job, because I'm sure he would have if he was the only one calling the plays, but he just hasn't had that chance. So I think this will give him that chance, and that'll give him the chance to make the next move. And I'm sure he'll be a successful head coach in the very near future.
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think he has the temperament for that as well, which is
Yeah,
also
no question.
a big thing, right? A lot of these guys that we see being passed over, you know, don't, you got to relate to the players in this day and age.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I
No,
think
he definitely seems like he's got the good rapport with the guys. And
exactly.
as a player, he was like that, and we've seen it as a coach for a number of years. So, I think this will let his genius shine through, and he'll do a great job.
No, I agree. So, let's see, man. Listen, football doesn't rest. You know what I mean? Super Bowl is over, but we got a lot of things coming up.
Don't forget the XFL and USFL coming on. I'll be tuning in to that, by the way.
The USFL too,
Yep.
man.
Yep.
So that's going to be pretty interesting. But let's move along to somebody who is near and dear to your heart, and that's Tim McCarver. His passing recently. Chris, what are your thoughts? On the man?
Yeah, so Tim McCarver, we just lost him. Tim, for those who don't know him, Tim made his debut in the major leagues, 17 years old. Was a great baseball player. Played a long time in the big leagues, and eventually transitioned into the broadcast booth, where he started, I guess, in the Phillies booth, and ended up in the Mets booth, and then became a national figure on all the national telecasts, World Series, and All-Star games, and everything through the years. Yeah, I mean, Tim was one of a kind. He was a genius. He knew the game better than anybody. I grew up listening to him on WOR in New York when he used to do the Mets games, and I grew up and Sports Channel. I always say, like, my dad was a genius, a baseball genius, and I learned more from him than anybody else, and knowing the game and learning the game. But Tim McCarver was right there with him, right behind my dad, as far as learning the game, just as a kid, listening to what he was saying and explaining things, and just had a very innate way of not only knowing the game and kind of seeing things before they happened. He just had a way of explaining it to you so you understood it, and saying, hey, this is what happened, or this might happen next. And then sure enough, you would see it. He would always be on the money. And, we've seen that a little bit in the last few years with, like, Tony Romo has done a really good job of that. And, we're seeing other guys now, Greg Olson, had a great, Kevin Burkhardt. Those guys were awesome at the Super Bowl. And I think that's the new wave of, like, you're seeing that. But Tim McCarver, this guy, just knew the game inside and out, and just so, I learned so much from him, and he was a big part of why I got into the game and have spent my whole life working in the business. And a lot of it goes to him. But to what your question was, as far as personal side, he's somebody, like I said, I listened to, and then I was fortunate enough when I started with the Mets, I ended up working, side by side with him. And he was a great guy. I mean, Tim was just a great man. We had a lot of fun together. He was a guy who always wanted to do his homework, and part of my job was to help him with that and provide him with information and stats and notes and things like that for the games. And I did a lot of that. And, so I spent a lot of time with him, and we just had a good rapport. We had a lot of fun together. He was funny. He had a great sense of humor. But he was a good guy. And like I said, he was always around. He wasn't one of these people that just showed up. You see some of these broadcasters and stuff like that, and they just show up for the game. And Tim did all his homework. He knew everything inside and out. And then on top of the fact that catchers just are a different breed. They know the game so well, and he played a long time in the big leagues. played with some of the best players in the game, won World Series, and you know, and all that stuff. But just a great dude. And I posted online actually on my all my social accounts at Chris Leibel. But you know, he wrote a book and was nice enough to, um, you know, put me in the acknowledgments and thank me, and wrote me a nice dedication. And you know, I'll never forget that. I was a young kid just starting in the business, and just a class act, a
Yeah.
good person. And you know, the game lost a lot when he retired. And I was sad to hear his health had been failing, and but just a genius when it comes to the game.
Yeah, I mean, I have my thoughts on Tim as well. Obviously, you know, I'm a Yankee fan, but I listened to the Met games, and then he went on to, you know, announce for the Yankees as well. And I always found him to be not well, obviously not so much. Yes, he's knowledgeable, but in the his delivery with, you know, with that information, to me, was amazing. I feel he was the most respected also because he didn't take crap from anybody. You know, and that's the other thing. You know, we talk about, you know, Phil Rizzuto being the antithesis of Tim McCarver, right?
Right.
Tim McCarver, you know, was you know, critical of anyone, even on
Yes.
even on his own team, but he did it in a respectful way.
Correct.
And I think when you look at Tim McCarver, you know, he doesn't have that um where people like loved him because, you know, he wasn't, you know, he was no nonsense when it came to his
Right.
broadcast. And
That's correct.
but you know what? He was the most respected. He was the most
Yeah.
respected. And
Well,
that's what I appreciate.
if he had something to say, he would say it. And if he, you know, thought somebody did something the wrong way or whatever, he had no
Dion.
problem. Yeah, he had no problem, you know, putting it out there,
Yeah.
and knowing sometimes that that's not sometimes a popular
Mhm.
opinion, or sometimes you're going to get pushback, or you're going to get someone have an issue.
Yep.
And I just think, like I said, there's just not too many people like that out there, and not too many people, you know, he wasn't in your face. He didn't
Mhm.
feel the need to tell you how smart he was. He talked to you like a human being. And like I said, I mean, I was just very fortunate enough to not only, you know, as a kid, be able to listen to him. Ralph, you know, who he worked with for a long time, who, you know, got a lot of flack because he sometimes had some funny like slips of the tongue
Yeah,
or
but I mean,
whatever. But
yeah.
Ralph Kiner was a brilliant baseball guy. He knew the game inside and out, and also one of the all-time greatest players to ever play the game. The guy hurt his back. The guy had hit 360 home runs in 10 years in the majors.
Yeah.
You know, a great player. But Ralph and him really clicked. You know, and then, you know, later Fran Healy, who was a
Mhm.
friend as well, you know, who did a good job, you know, with those guys. And but you know, I was very lucky in that not only that I had to listen to them and learn the game from knowledgeable baseball people who played the game, but were also bright and smart people that just weren't
Mhm.
like, oh, super talents that just, you know, that didn't even know how they did what they did. They could break it down like nobody else. And then we able to work with them and sit in the broadcast booth with them, you know, during games, and listen to them and see how they work, and see how professional they were, and how they handled them, and how they treated their craft, you know, and took it seriously. Like you said, Phil Rizzuto, he had his place in history, and a John Sterling, you know, those guys, they have their kind of niche as far as what they do and how they
Mhm.
do it. But these guys took it seriously. Ralph, you know, guys like Ralph and Tim took it like, this is my career now. I'm not a player anymore, and this is how I'm gonna
Mhm.
approach it. And he did it the right way, in my opinion, and obviously in your opinion too.
Yeah, no, I totally. I mean, that's the one thing I will always say about Tim McCarver. You know, I enjoyed listening to him. His stories were amazing.
Yeah.
You know, from those Cardinals teams. You know,
Yeah.
from the Met teams. That he announced. You know, when he was on the Yankees, announcing the Yankee games. And when he didn't he do also the Saturday games,
Yeah, he did the game of the week. He
the game
did
of the
the
week. Yeah,
Olympics. He did the Olympics for CBS. I mean, the guy did do a
yeah.
lot of things, but he was a guy who
He's a
was
good guy.
good guy, but he was also he took it seriously. He went in there and he studied up. If he was doing a bobsled race for the Winter Olympics, he would learn about bobsledding.
You would think he knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But
No,
that's the sign of a good, analyst, right?
A professional. He was a
that's
pro.
what he was.
He was a pro's pro. And like I said, we had a lot of fun together. He had he was a sharp guy, very smart, knowledgeable human being. History buff and stuff like that. So, he had a great sense of humor. So we had a lot of laughs and fun together and joking around. And so, like I said, it's a big loss to lose somebody like that. And, it's given me the opportunity losing him has given me the opportunity to just, kind of recount a lot of the memories and the good times that I was fortunate enough to have with him. And it makes me think of Ralph and Bob Murphy, the Mets,
Bob Murphy,
in the radio booth, and how lucky I was to not only have them as a kid, but also as a young person just starting the business, to be able to work with them. And like, these are the guys that it's just, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, again, to your point, what better mentors to have starting out than these guys, right?
Yep.
That's and by the way, that's not every broadcast of every team. Like, they were very unique. They were very unique. It's not like every team had this type of broadcaster.
No, only one color commentator was doing the World Series every year. That was Tim McCarver. You know what I'm saying? There's 30 other teams. Yeah,
that's my point.
Other teams. You know what I mean? So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
it's you're very lucky to have that. And he worked with both Bucks. He worked with Joe Buck and Jack Buck, with Jack Buck first, and then Joe Buck. And obviously he played when Jack Buck was announcing, and then Joe Buck. He ended up joining the booth with him, and I didn't know Joe, but I know Jack, but Joe, I got to know a little bit, and he's a great guy as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be it's gonna be a big loss. I think for a lot of people who grew up listening to Tim McCarver, right? But
no question.
I think the Mets are in good hands. With the announcers that they have.
Yes.
To me, even as a Yankee fan, to me they have the best team right now in baseball to announce.
Yeah, I enjoy listening to the Mets announcers, and when you have the extra innings package and you can watch you watch all the games, you do appreciate them, because some not all the announcers are as good, but I think some of those guys, Gary Cohn and Howie Rose, they worked with Tim as well, and they probably learned a lot from him too. I'm sure they'll be the first to tell you they learned a lot from kind of the way he approached things and handled himself. So rest in peace to Tim. He was one of a kind. He was a great guy. And I mean, if you go back and just watch, and I know that you won't do it, but if you go back and watch that World Series, the 2001 World Series, the guy literally predicted the Luis Gonzalez hit. He called the shot. It's insane. But that shows his genius. If you go back and watch it and listen to the broadcast, he basically tells you what's going to happen before it happens. And he did that all the time. He just knew the game like that. And again, you don't see too many like that, but I think that's one of the reasons why, and I always say this, you see a lot of catchers end up being managers, because they know the game.
They know the game. They see it from
they know the game, and a lot of backup catchers even more than the starting catchers, because they're going through every single pitch and learning every detail of every single thing, and watching it from there, it's crazy. But when you look at the Mike Sochas and Bruce Bochy's and the guys these successful guys, Joe Torre and guys like that. I mean,
Matheny.
There's so many. I mean, go on and on. I mean, there's tons of them. Half the managers are back or former backup catchers. But anyway, but I want to dedicate this podcast to Tim. He was a great guy and a good friend, and I gonna miss him.
Yeah, no, without question. Sticking with baseball, spring trainings are right around the corner, man.
Well, it started already, and that's I always say it's the best time of the year.
Best time of the year.
I remember when I went to my first spring training as a working, and I remember Joe McIlvaine was the general manager of the
Oh,
Mets.
wow. I
And
remember
Joe
Joe
McIlvaine
McIlvaine.
told me, he's like, "Oh, welcome down here, Chris." He said, he goes, "Best time of the year. It's the best time of the year." And I was like, I was just in awe. I couldn't believe I was there. I was like, "Oh my God." My whole life, this is all I ever wanted to do was be at spring training. And,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
many spring trainings later, here we are. It's just it's the promise of a new season. It's a new year. The good weather's coming. For someone like me who hates cold weather, that's coming. We're in the Northeast. It's very hope springs eternal, right? In the spring for everybody, every
Come on.
team has a chance, and who's going to be the teams that's going to emerge. Obviously, there's a lot of big payrolls and big name teams, but it's always fun because there's going to be a couple of teams that are going to be there that you're like, whoa, how are they doing it?
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the big question this year,
Yeah, I'm
as
looking
every year.
forward to spring training for a couple of reasons. First, to see the new players with their new teams, right? And
That's
how
always
that
fun.
and that's always fun. But more so, the rule changes in spring training. How
Yeah.
quickly do they adjust? That's going to be the biggest thing because a lot of talk has been made of these obvious rule changes with the bases and the time clock. But I also reminded myself that what, these rookies that have been playing in the minor leagues, they're used to it already, right? They've done it already. How is the veteran who's stuck
Well,
in his way going to learn how to pitch with the clock, learn how to stay at the batter's box and not get out? The calling of the timeouts, the how many pitches to first base, you know,
yeah. I
that to
mean,
me, the
the pizza
nuance of
box
that.
is the pizza box
The pizza
box
boxes,
face.
yeah, I saw that.
It's listen, it's going to be an adjustment for everybody. It's going to be adjustment for all the players. It's going to be an adjustment for the management, the coaches and managers, and 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 for the fans. I mean, there's no question about it. It's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. And then on top of that, we have the WBC this year, so not everybody's really going to be in spring training
Yeah,
all year. A lot of the players are going to be gone with their respective countries
yeah.
to get
So,
into the tournament.
that's a great question, and I don't know the answer to this. Are the bases at the WBC going to be the same size?
But sure,
You
I don't
know,
know.
are the that to me is going to be interesting. Under what rules are they playing? Are they playing under international Olympic rules
I
in
don't
terms
know.
of that to me is going to be interesting because why would you not
Or are
have
they
those things?
adjusting those rules now that they're doing this in
Yeah,
the
exactly. Because I think
highest
that's going to
level?
be key. Uh, that is going to be the biggest thing for me. But part of spring training as a fan was always like, hey, Barry Bonds with the Giants is that first spring training. Greg Maddux with the Braves that first spring training. Griffey when he went to Cincinnati. That's like as a
No,
fan
that's
saying,
always fun to see the guys in their new uniforms and see what they look like, and you're always, what number is the guys wearing and things
yes,
like that.
yes,
So that's a lot of fun. It's gonna be a big adjustment year for everybody, a bigger one than usual, with the rules, and it's certainly gonna be exciting to see how it works. I have some friends that are very upset with them. Listen, I think we got look, I love the game, the original form of the game, but I wasn't a huge fan of the shifts. For
hated
me,
the shifts, hated
for 175 years, a line drive up the middle is a hit.
the hit.
And all of a
Yeah,
sudden, then it wasn't.
yeah. The
So
shortstop
I
is at
think,
second base.
yeah, now it's just a ground out or whatever. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. And the other thing is, I mean, the big thing for me, and again, I haven't even seen the bases yet, and if they how goofy they look or whatever. Some people are saying things about them. If they, how they look, I have no idea. But I guess I don't want to say they're goofy. I haven't seen them, but I'm saying like no matter how goofy people think they look, there's the reason they're doing it is they're trying to promote stolen bases and bring stolen bases back to the game. And I'm a huge fan of stolen bases, and I think that's a huge part of the game that's been missing for the last bunch of years. And for those outside of the game, or on the fan side, on your side, Lou, I think people don't understand how much these numbers are in there. So they're trying to do something to make this part and bring the excitement back of the stolen base. Now, I work with a lot of players, and I've said, I've gone to my clients over the last 5, 6, 7 years and said to, why are you, why wouldn't you steal there? Why wouldn't you steal? And then they had to tell me straight up, I have no chance. What do you mean you have no chance? They have the numbers down to each thing. They know how long the pitcher is to home. They know how long the catcher is to second base, and they know how long they take to get from first to second.
Yeah.
And if everything's perfect, they're going to get thrown out. And so that's part of the game right now. So they're kind of throwing a monkey wrench into these analytics to try and pick that up. But I mean, when I was a little kid, guys were stealing 100 bases.
Vince Coleman,
a year.
Ricky.
I mean, Vince Coleman and Ricky and guys like that. And even guys like Ron LaFleur and
Gary Templeton.
No, I don't think he stole that many. But
no, from the Padres.
Gary Templeton, you think he stole 100 bases in a year?
No, not 100 bases. No, but
I'm saying like guys stole 100 bases, and they, it would be nice to see that. I just saw a stat the other day. Ricky Henderson. So listen to this one, Lou. Ricky Henderson. And I had Ricky with the Mets, one of the greatest of all time. I mean, certainly one of the greatest players of all time, but definitely one of the funniest humans I've ever been around. I don't know if on purpose or not, but maybe.
Yes. I think
anyway, Ricky. So Ricky, but Rick, I saw a stat. So first of all, only 3 players born after 1890 have half as many steals as Ricky Henderson. Okay, number 1. And number 2, if a player came up today, okay, and stole 70 bases a year for 20 straight seasons, they still wouldn't catch Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, they still wouldn't catch Ricky.
Stolen base.
I saw that one.
That's unbelievable. The new rules we're going to see. But again, I'm not going to judge anything until I see them. And if they're trying to enhance the game and bring it back and make it a little bit less robotic or less reliant on numbers, I'm all for it, because I felt like when I was a kid, I loved the game so much, and the game just isn't really quite the same as it once was. So it would be nice to bring it back for like our kids.
But here's the thing though about stolen bases that I tell a lot of people when I have these kind of conversations with friends and such, and that is, it's not that Ricky Henderson was a great base fielder. Yes, he was fast, but that was an art form. Correct. There's a lot of fast guys who can't steal bases. I mean, the Yankees had Brett Gardner, who was fast as hell and would get thrown out, a big part of the time.
That's right.
So it's an art form. It's knowing when to run, how to push off. And that's where Ricky was so great.
Well, it's reading the pitcher. It's knowing the counts. It's knowing what the pitches might be and knowing the sequences. Yeah. I mean, those are all the things that go into it.
Yeah, I think for me, the effect of the bigger base is going to be more so running down the first baseline, because not everybody's going to be a base stealer, and not everybody's going to have that art form. There's going to be a few guys that we know.
No, but it's going to be nice if they could bring back the stolen base.
Oh, without question.
A strategy part of the game.
I missed the hit and run. That's another one that's gone by the wayside.
Yeah, but I mean, if you remember, even this isn't even that long ago, but when Jose Reyes was in his prime, Gary Cohn, we just talked about Gary before, used to call it a Reyes run. He'd single, steal second, go to third on a ground ball, and he'd score on a fly ball, and it was 1-0 in the first inning, and no one even did anything.
Yeah.
So, and that, what's that?
I think we're going to see more of that.
Yeah, and I would like to see more of that. It opens up the game. It makes it a little bit more, approachable, kind of, if that makes sense. If that's
it does. I mean, I think a lot of things are gonna. I'm fascinated how this year is going to pan out with the rule changes, the schedule, the way that it is now.
Yeah, the new schedule. Yeah,
to me, I haven't anticipated an opening day in a long time, more so than this one,
Yeah.
because of these changes. And
No, it's gonna be a lot of fun, and it's gonna be interesting to see, especially for old seam heads like us.
yes, listen, the team that I hated the most, aside from because they're on our in our division, but because these cockamamie rule change, not rule changes, but like the opener and the foreman in the outfield, and I get why they have to do it. I'm talking about the Rays people.
Raise.
I understand why they got to do it, but I almost feel like I almost blame them in a way, like single handedly,
Well,
like
they've succeeded and they've done well with a limited payroll
yeah, no,
and
no, to
kind
their
of doing
credit,
a lot of funky things using a lot of smart people who
yeah.
do it. So it'll be interesting
But
to
I
see if
think
they level that off.
yeah, but I think in doing that, which listen, you got to do what you got to do to win, and they've proven to be winners. So, but
That's
it's
right.
more like again the shift. Then people started getting on the shift. Then it was the opener. People started doing the
Mhm.
opener. Then it was the four-man in the outfield, which started I think last year or the year before. And again, I preface it by saying I know why they have to do it. I get it. I'm
Yeah.
just getting on my soapbox as you said
No, but you
earlier.
said we're more traditionalists. And
Like, to me, there was nothing wrong with the game. Like if you
I
just
I agree.
let it be,
But it'll
But
be interesting to see. Again, I'm not going to judge anything, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, as the season goes on, and we'll
we'll
make
talk about
some.
it in October.
Yeah, well, but I think but I think anything they're trying. What I appreciate is they are trying to make the game better, and they're not afraid to kind of upset the apple cart. And again, the game isn't as watchable as it once was for me. I
Yeah,
still watch it, but I'm just saying it's not as
yeah,
watchable. If they're trying to make it more watchable, why, and they have a lot of smart people working on this. Well, who am I to say it's not going to
yeah.
work? Let's see what happens. I have friends who are just like, I'm not watching. I'm like, well, why don't you at least give it a chance?
Well, here's the one thing that kind of bothers me. This is the one thing. I just saw that they are they're going to keep the Ghost Runner, which I hate that
Yeah,
phrase
I
anyway.
hate that. That one I hate.
So you're going to keep the Ghost Runner. That's going to be now. Come the playoffs, it's a whole different game. Like that bothers me. What now?
Yeah, I
You're
don't understand why
changing.
we're doing that. I feel like the game is the game. Play the game and let these guys play and let the game finishes when it finishes. And
Yeah,
some of
like
those games, I mean, some of my greatest memories of my childhood are being at Shea Stadium in the 14th inning, like knowing I have school in the morning and going like, I can't believe my
it's,
parents are letting me stay here and or whatever.
it's like 200 fans in the stands at 1:30 in the
Yeah,
morning, and like
yeah.
that to me,
To me, that's that's
it's like
the
and how many games does it affect in a year? How many 18 inning games do you play in a year?
so
You know what I
rare,
mean? Like
so
that
rare.
to me is what bothers me about it. The other thing is make okay, if that's what bothers you, then let's set up a rule, that hey, after an 18 inning or X amount of inning games, you can bring an extra player in for 2 days or whatever it is. But to put the ghost runner, at
I hate I hate
at
the Ghost
second,
Runner.
and then playoffs. Now we're gonna go to extra innings, regular extra innings.
Or at least make the Ghost Runner put the Ghost Runner in the 12th inning.
Yeah,
Let them play a
exactly,
couple extra
exactly. Do
innings or
something.
whatever.
But this, that's what bothers me about this thing. But
Because
again,
I think that would eliminate I mean, if you just did the 12th inning,
yeah,
then you
yeah.
would, that would eliminate 95% of the, issue. So,
Exactly. I totally agree. If you're gonna keep it, do it in the later innings. Let him play a couple of extra innings, and then say, okay. But like, to your point, the 12, 13, whatever inning that they decide on. All right, from this inning forward, we're gonna have the ghost runner because we want to protect whatever it is. But what bothers me most is yes that, but then also as I mentioned, come playoffs, you're playing a different game that you've been
yeah.
playing the whole
No,
year.
I agree. I agree. I think you're
But
100% on
anyway,
that.
but
But listen, I think, Lou, we got to wrap things up. It's been a great episode. If I do say so myself, um,
you can't say
we
so
we
yourself.
got a lot more to talk about. We'll bring that back next time. I think we're gonna have a special guest next time as well. So look forward to seeing everybody. Thanks for sticking with us, guys, and we'll be back soon. Take care.
Take care, guys.